Someone make it make sense.
I'll be a couple.
Hello, everybody. Welcome on in. If you're coming over from our previous live stream, or if you're just now getting here, welcome on in. Hopefully you guys can hear me. And let me just see here. My should be public. Okay, let me know if you guys can hear me and if you guys are okay. Sweet. The Lori shuttle worked. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so we're going to take a look at some of these jurors speaking out. We have, of course, this is the longest one with Nate Eaton, and of course, makes sense that they're talking about. I've got quite a number of these with the different reactions and whatnot. But you know, and some of you guys have probably seen bits and pieces, but you know, they had no idea, right, about the rest of it. The other, what happened to the kids and what happened to Tammy and what happened to Alex, or that Lori had prior convictions, and so, but all of them have been delving into it from what it sounds like after the verdict, and now know about it. So we're going to take a look here at what they have to say. And also we're going to learn more about what really did it for them in terms of convicting. And one thing that was interesting, right, was there were a couple jurors who were on the not guilty side up until closing arguments. So love that they kept an open mind. It's awesome. And also, welcome, Lindsay. I do believe you are a new squirrel friend. So love it. Love it. Blackwater went to make tea and came back and is like, I'm in another dimension. Yeah, we are over. That's awesome. Well, the shuttle worked. Awesome. Yeah, we're over here with watching the Lori Vallow jurors. So, and also welcome to our new squirrel friend, Lindsay. Love it. So yeah, let's get started.
All right, Tosh. So how are you feeling here? It's been 2 days since the guilty verdict. Have you binged watched and read everything about the case, or have you kind of unplugged?
I have. I've watched it, and just kind of relaxing now that it's done. And yeah, it was pretty crazy, everything that we saw.
What's been the biggest surprise that you've learned since the trial's been over about the circumstances with this case?
By the time she even gets to this part of the whole thing,
she won't get here.
She won't even make it to it, which is crazy because she's already serving so much.
So I think so far it sounds like she's not actually clear on how much time. Like, I mean, I know Lori believes in multiple probations, but like it's 3 life sentences. Okay, she's never going to be serving time in Arizona at all. But anyway,
Idaho.
You mean by the time she gets whatever she said to with this part doesn't really matter because in Idaho she has the 3 life sentences.
We are crazy.
Yeah.
So you didn't even know any of that.
No.
No idea. And now, now that you've learned, did you ever during the trial? My big question was for the jurors. You kept hearing about Tylee. Did you ever wonder, well, where is Tylee?
Yes. Yeah, but we couldn't really ask about it or look into it because we were asked not to. So.
Did you think that Tylee?
She's got a puppers behind her. Look, puppers on the couch. Can you guys see puppers on the couch? And then puppers comes over. Cute.
Because we were asked not to. So.
Did you think that Tylee was still alive?
Yay, puppers.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. Yeah, because at the time she was only 16. So that would only put her in her 20s.
Mm-hmm. What was the biggest surprise for you in the trial? Like, what was there one day or one witness that really like surprised you?
Actually, yeah,
That's awesome.
the girl that met up with Charles the day before.
Oh yeah,
Nancy
she
Jones.
was awesome.
Yeah, it was a little bit. It was pretty interesting to watch hers. More because it blew up for her comeback, what she said, but I was surprised that she was there.
Wait, I think you mean the moment when Lori said, "So you spent your whole time talking about me," and she said, "Don't flatter yourself."
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, that she was a memorable witness, and I know a lot of people were impressed with her. What was your thought about Lori? How the job she did in representing herself?
So Lindsay, that twin flames. So I was surprised you know of it. Most people, everyone seems to not know of it until we started watching it here. But that's interesting. So I don't know that much about Hannah Kobayashi. I know she went missing. I think she was found. But I will say this much. That is fucking interesting as fuck if she was messed up, if she was wrapped up in this twin flames. Wow. I don't know. I bet somebody in Scroll Crew will know, though, if anyone followed that closer. Because that's interesting. That could definitely explain, though, if they just didn't hear from her for a long time, but she was fine. I mean, cult, right? That is a thing. So,
honestly,
because like
the first part was a little shaky. The first week was a little bit shaky, but then the second part.
I want to say, that my understanding is like that's what happened is that she was fine. I could be wrong about that. Again, I didn't follow it closely. But my understanding is she was fine. Let me know if that's not the case.
What's your thought about Lori, how the job she did in representing herself?
Honestly, the first part was a little shaky. The first week was a little bit shaky, but then the second part, I think she did pretty well. Other than like the parts where she got a little bit sassy. But yeah.
Right. I think that's kind of her personality. How about the prosecution? How do you think they did?
I think they did extremely well. They got her you could tell that they cracked her a few times, and that was good. That was a good thing to see happen and watch. Because it helped us with the overall.
Right, to the overall picture, the overall story of it.
Yeah, yep.
Was there ever a moment where you were like confused or like wondering, wait, who are we talking about here? Because there's a lot of characters here. And there's a lot of one character becomes Ned because he's a zombie. I mean, were you ever just trying to put it all together in your mind?
Yes, but I like to think that I did pretty good at taking notes. So I wrote all the times down. I wrote all the names down. I wrote when it happened. I had pages and pages and pages of notes. So I looked at those every day at the end, and I was pretty good at keeping on track with who everyone was and all that.
Very smart. Very smart of you to do that. You didn't get to keep the notes, so yeah, they kept them.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. What was the deliberation like? Did you all watch the video that Lori asked you to watch?
We did.
You know what's really
what we saw.
So you know what's really funny is like when she really wanted them to watch the whole video. You know, I kept saying the whole time, right? And I'm sure you guys were saying the same thing. It's like, why? It's just going to make it worse for her, right? Like it's just going to make it worse for her, right? Why does she tell me why? She wants them to watch it. But anyway, let's see what they say.
In court on the big screen, the clippets of it was
right, Blackwater.
The parts that were actually important to hear. Like what she wanted us to watch wasn't anything. We were confused why she wanted us to watch the whole thing because what they showed was important pieces of the interview, and out of the whole thing, she was kind of smiling, laughing, not really serious. So we were kind of confused why she wanted us to watch it because it just helped in our overall.
Oh my God.
Decision.
It didn't help her then.
No.
Wow.
Did it hurt her?
Yes, because if you're in an interview minutes after this whole thing happened, you'd think that you'd be kind of like scared,
her demeanor,
shaky, maybe, questioning. But she took her sandals off. She crossed her legs. She sat up straight she was sitting in the recliner like she lived there, and then she was laughing and joking with the detective, and yeah.
And the word of the trial seemed to be, one of the words was nonchalant, and that's what your take of how she was.
Yes, exactly that. It was interesting to see how she acted like that after all that happened.
Was there a piece of evidence that really stuck out to you? I mean, did seeing the bat and the gun and the piece of floor, did that help put it together?
No. Well, so if we were doing Alex's case, it would have, right? But being on her case, we already know Alex did it. He admitted to it. What we were there for is the conspiracy to do it. So like seeing all the evidence, super cool. But it was the text messages, it was the interviews and how she was acting in court that helped us.
Wow.
Interesting.
But the part that stood out to us was where she said that Charles was Ned before they got rid of him. She specifically said before we got rid of him. And then she said, we're both going to be like Nephi. So that was the part where we all were like, yeah, that's.
There it is. So the states, you see, this is great insight, right? Because the state, you never know, right? Shit like that could completely backfire with a juror. But they found the Nephi thing, right? We know that was really effective in Idaho. But they got a lot more into it there, right? In Idaho. This was a much shorter trial. They didn't go quite as in depth, but this really stuck with her as well, which is interesting.
Where she said that Charles was Ned before they got rid of him. She specifically said before we got rid of him. And then she said, we're both going to be like Nephi. So that was the part where we all were like, yeah, that's pretty insane.
So the text messages really are what kind of sealed it.
Yeah.
Interesting. So because she didn't pull the trigger, because she didn't use the bat, you're saying it helped add to it, but really you're looking at the conspiracy. Was that kind of hard to separate? Like, because conspiracy could be harder to prove rather than first degree murder.
Yeah, and that's why it took a little bit longer because, like I said, even though we were given all the evidence, she didn't use it. So what we were looking at was the text messages, was the videos of how she was acting. Another part that stuck out to us was she said that they ran out with no shoes.
Oh yeah.
But in the clip that we saw from Walgreens, she was actually wearing shoes when she walked in and then continued to buy new sandals and switch them out by the time she got back to the
We
scene.
talked about that because I find that really interesting, right? What was going on with that? We never found out. But was there something on the other sandals? Was she worried about some evidence for her and for Tylee about blood on the shoes? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I know so many people are going to be glad to hear you say that because when we would talk about that every night on Courtroom Insider, we showed the video and people are like, she's wearing shoes. Yet she made a point that they had to stop to get shoes because of the hot asphalt in Arizona.
Yeah. Maybe Tylee didn't have them on, but obviously we couldn't see that. But she also said that they both ran out with no shoes.
So this is the thing. This is why I'm like wondering, right? She says, oh, they both ran out without shoes, but they didn't. They had shoes on and she replaced the shoes. So why is she replacing the shoes, right?
So when we did watch the clip again and saw that she was actually wearing them and that she switched them out from the time she got them to the time she got back, that was pretty crazy.
What did you think of the encounter with her and Kay Woodcock, Charles's sister? Kay testified and Lori didn't have much to ask her.
Yeah. It was a really good interview.
I should put some.
I think Kay did really well with how she presented herself and how she answered. With how Lori was asking the questions, I think Kay did extremely well answering them back, even though Lori was kind of trying to crack her and trying to get something out of her that just wasn't a thing.
Right. What was your take on her defense that this was all just a family tragedy?
It wasn't. Like I said in the interview before, if he would have done it, if he would have shot him once, it could have been self-defense. But he ended up shooting him again when he was already on the ground, and you can't defend yourself when you're already on the ground. So him shooting him a second time was not self-defense. It's not a
Now that I love hearing, because why? That means that she paid attention, as you want your jurors to the law, right? Because that was in the jury instructions about the law for how that works for self-defense. And she's absolutely right. how if the person's already, if they're no longer a threat and they're already on the ground, they're not. Yeah. Good.
Maybe it's a family tragedy to Kobe and obviously to their side of the family, right? But Lori's side, it's not a family tragedy when it was supposed to happen.
Yeah. Walk us through. A lot of people have so many questions about being on jury duty, like being called as a juror. You really didn't know anything about this case.
I did not. I've only lived here 2 years as of March, so I didn't know. I go to work, I come home, I play with my dogs, cats, and that's it. I scroll on social media, but
And that's a lot of jurors. We always hear about this, right? With these other high profile cases. It'll be the same for Kober. There will be people who have not heard of it. There will be. There absolutely will be. That's true for every trial. They always find people that have not heard of it. There are people who are like that. They just don't, they aren't exposed to the things, right? And even when it seems impossible for people like us to comprehend, she described it right there exactly what it is.
So I didn't know. I go to work, I come home, I play with my dogs, cats, and that's it. I scroll on social media, but it's not anything like that. Never has popped up because I've never heard of it before. So I've never seen anything about it at all.
I hadn't seen anything about it. You get the summons, you go down to the courthouse.
Right? The algorithm, right? If it's not something that you look into, if you're not following cases or whatever, the algorithms on social media is not going to pop it up, right? So that makes perfect sense.
Did you want to serve on the jury, or did you care?
I honestly, I thought whether it was this case or not, because I had no idea what this case was, I thought it was a pretty cool experience because I lived 24 years of my life in Minnesota and nothing. Like I've got nothing. And then I move here and 2 years later, I'm on like the biggest case in America right now.
Right.
So,
but yeah, you didn't realize it at the time.
Right. But getting summoned to jury is a pretty cool experience, no matter what case it is.
Right.
So I mean, I wanted to do it just to see how it was.
Just to serve. So you get.
I would love to be on
picked.
I would love it.
And I believe didn't the judge said you can tell people the name of the case, but that's it.
Yes. Yeah. So when that happened, I ended up telling my grandma, and she was like, Tosh, how do you not know who that is? Like, everyone knows who that is. What do you mean?
That's very interesting. That's very different than other cases because normally you can't see the name of the case. That's different than what we're used to. Wow.
And she was wanting to tell me all this stuff, and I'm like, Grammy, you can't tell me that. Like, don't tell me things. And so the whole time she was like, oh, I wish I could tell you this. I wish I could tell you that. How was your day? Like, just wanting to know everything.
Right. Yeah. I spoke with other jurors in the Idaho cases that was the same thing. One, actually, he had to go home and just go straight upstairs because all his wife wanted to do was talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard because nobody knew my name prior to this. And then, so nobody was asking me questions other than my grandma. And like my mom, she's back in Minnesota. And so when she was there, she was like basically just asking how my day was because she doesn't know anything about it either because she's from Minnesota. So it's not something we hear.
Right.
And but other than that, the second I gave my name out and how to spell it, it took off. Like everything's going crazy now.
Right. Everybody wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
What moment did you realize, okay, this is a big story, or there's interest? Was it seeing the people waiting outside the courtroom every day? Or are you just realizing it in the past 2 days since the verdict that this is huge?
I realized it, I think it was like on our second or third day, because when we first got into it, like the first day, they gave us these badges. And if you look at other jurors there, they didn't have the badges like we had. And so we had them because we were on one of the biggest cases. We didn't know that, but as long as we had those badges on, we couldn't talk to anyone. So that's when I realized, and walking up every morning and it said media staging, I'm like, this is insane. I've never seen anything like it before. So I think by the second and third day, I was kind of like, wow, this is bigger than what I thought it was.
So to walk people through the process, you guys would show up at a parking garage and they'd shuttle you over. How did it all work? How did the day go?
So I think everyone but me, maybe even, parked in the parking garage a couple blocks away, and then they would shuttle them over there. I let my wife drive me because I like my car and I don't trust people, so I didn't want to park it blocks away where I couldn't see it.
Oh, I wonder what type of car.
And
So
by the way, I would walk by you every day at the end of court. I'd be on the phone. I have to say, I can't talk right now. There's a juror. Okay, while you wait for your wife to arrive, and then I'd be down the block and be like, okay, I can talk. And it was so hard to not pass you my card. I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so your wife would drive you. So once she drop you off at the courthouse.
Yeah, she would drop me off and pick me up, and then I would walk up to the courthouse. Staging areas there. Everyone's already looking at you because they know that you're on the jury because they've seen us. So we walk in, go through the detectors. We were actually there so much that if we just walked through, they were like, okay, you can go through. Like they were at the point where we're seeing you every day. So then I would go get like a drink from the vending machine, but then we'd have to go through the elevators and up to the back area so that nobody could talk to us, question us, anything like that. And then we just had to sit there and not talk. Like we couldn't talk among each other either if it was about the case. We could only get to know each other. So there wasn't much talking other than there was only 2 of us girls. So it was a bunch of guys being guys talking about motorcycles, their artwork, whatever. And so, but then we just would go through the back room, sit there and not talk till we got called onto the stand.
So then you go out, you'd sit through the trial and then break for lunch, and you could go have lunch wherever.
We could, but we had to keep the badge on at all times.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep.
And did the court pay for your lunch?
No.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you, the court lunch is not cheap. It's like a hospital lunch. Like it's like the hospital meals because they're not cheap. It's pretty expensive.
Right. And what that was surprising to me, to be honest with you. In Idaho, all the jurors got their meals paid for. They brought in a catered meal every day.
Anthony, they got to order.
Yeah, I started bringing my own lunches.
Yeah.
Because that way I don't have to go anywhere, be looked at during it.
You would just stay upstairs in the room and eat.
Yeah, we went down. Well, we go down to the quiet room. That's where the jurors are.
Oh, okay. And then at the end of the day, was it hard? I mean, did you ever just want to walk out of there and be like, what did I just hear? And who can I tell? Or did you just kind of turn it off?
I think most of the days I was like, I want to tell you everything. But some of the days I was just like, didn't want to think about it because I was already there all day. So it was pretty hard not telling anyone about it. But at the same time, it was peaceful.
Right.
Because that we were already in the court all day listening to everything. And then to go home and just kind of decompress was nice.
Right. Yeah. So we go through 19 witnesses with the prosecutor, and that takes, 5, 6, 7 days over a few weeks. And then you walked in and Lori said she was going to rest without any defense or witnesses. What was your reaction?
I think we all just kind of like looked at each other like, what?
Yeah. Were you wanting her to say something to have a defense?
Yes. Out of all of it, because we didn't know where any of her side was, it was all the witnesses from the state. So we were expecting the family members, like anyone, like her friends at the time, and just no one. So we were all just kind of confused. We all just looked at each other and like, that's weird.
Did you know that it was going to end that day and that you would start your deliberations like within an hour?
No, we actually thought we still had like 2 more weeks to go.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because they told you to keep your schedule clear through, I think,
Mhm.
beginning of May, right?
Yeah, May 15th was the latest.
Yeah. So you get the case, the judge reads you your instructions, and it's lengthy instructions. I mean, it took like 45 minutes.
Yeah, and we had to go through it twice. So
Right. So, so he reads them to you, and then when you get together in the room, don't you have to go through them too?
yeah, no,
Oh, okay.
no, he read them to us, and then if we want to, we could reread them. I didn't see anyone that did,
Yeah.
just because it took so long. But he did it at the very beginning, and then he did it at the very end.
That's
And they were pretty thick packets.
So you go in the room, and you were only there 17 minutes, I think, the first day. Was that just to pick a four person, or how did all that work?
The very first day?
Yeah, after you guys got the case, after sorry, the first day of deliberations, after the case.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, after you got the case and it was done, and the judge said, "All right, the case is yours." You all went in a room. What did you do that first day for 15 or so minutes?
We actually just sat there and waited, and for someone to come tell us what to do.
So I'm glad he asked.
Oh.
And then they were like, "You can come back tomorrow, and we'll start tomorrow." And then we did it all in that time. Was the next day, and within like 30 to 40 minutes.
Oh, wow. So the first day, you didn't even deliberate the first day. You just kind of waited for instructions.
Yeah, yep.
And so coming back the next day, did everybody already kind of have an idea on who wanted to be the foreperson, or was it just you did?
No, it was actually between me, or there was a guy with his long beard. Yeah, the guy that was next to me. It was between us, and then we did rock, paper, scissors, and we voted, and it came down to him. So
And then you said you had a verdict in really kind of less than an hour?
yeah, because all of us knew, except
Well, that makes
10 out of 12 of us knew. So 2 of them were kind of still on the edge. So we rewatched everything. We rewatched everything that they wanted to see, that they were on the edge about. And then after that, we just came to the conclusion, and they were ready.
Was there any sort of debate over like a particular thing, like, I'm not sure, or was it pretty much, this is what it was?
Yeah, it was this is what it was. Like, for one of them that was on the edge, the part that set the whole thing was where she walked in with shoes, but said that she didn't. He was like, well, she lied about that. So why would she lie about that when it's just sandals, you know? But yeah, that was one of the things that they were on the fence about, and we rewatched it, and he was like, okay, now I know.
Interesting that was the key point.
Yeah.
So you go in, they read the verdict. Did you look at Lori at all to see her reaction?
Yes. And it wasn't anything. Like, she already knew, because the second they said guilty, I don't know if you were in there, but anyone that was in there, you could tell that we all instantly looked at her when they said guilty, and that was it. Like, she accepted it.
Right.
So,
no emotion, just like it was just a fact.
Yeah, like complete no emotion, was just there.
Right. Were you hoping for something more from her? Did you think she might break down or cry or
That, or go after someone, because not that that's like what she does, but it was we had one guard in there the whole time, but then during the time where she read guilty, there was 2 of them, just in case anything were to happen. So that kind of got us thinking, like, is something going to happen?
Right. Did you know that she's been in jail this whole time?
No.
You didn't?
No, because she's wearing normal clothes.
Right.
She's wearing street clothes. So.
And you didn't know about Idaho, obviously, the convictions there. And do you know that her husband's on death row?
No.
Yeah.
No, we did not know any of this until after. Well, I didn't.
And as you're learning this, what was your reaction?
It's all insane. Like, I couldn't imagine doing any of this.
accurate.
Going through any of it. Like, it's so many she won't even be around when she gets to this sentence. That's how serious it is.
Right. Okay, so they read the verdict, the judge thanks you for your service. And then what happened after that? Did he come and meet with you?
He did. He actually shook all of our hands and thanked us for being there. And he was a really good guy. He got us donuts one of the days, so that was a win for everyone.
All it takes is donut. That's so funny. That's so funny you say that, Tosh, because I in the first trial for Lori, I brought donuts one day on deliberation day for everybody in line, and we got a verdict that day. And then in Chad's trial, I brought donuts on deliberation day, and we got a verdict that day. I did not bring them on this trial, so people were like, "You got to go get the donuts. You got to go get the donuts." But the judge delivered the donuts a different day, but
yep, he got us, and everyone was just ecstatic over donuts, and it was just so funny because we have to be so serious when we're there. So
right,
maybe it was like little kids getting donuts.
Well, maybe they need to do something in Arizona where they actually like feed you all lunch for being there and give you snacks and stuff.
That would be nice.
So he thanks you for your service, and then you're free to go. What was that like, walking out the courtroom and being kind of, chased down by all of us?
So we knew that the reason that we had to wear the badges was that so nobody would talk to us or question us or anything like that. So when we gave the badges back and we were going down the elevator, I think all of our hearts were kind of pumping, like, this is it. They asked if any of us actually wanted to speak to paparazzi or if we just wanted to walk out. And we all just said we just wanted to walk out. Because if we did want to, they were going to just walk us right to you guys. So we all just walked out, and then it was like we were a sizzling piece of steak. Like, everyone, all eyes were on us. Everyone wanted all of us. It was crazy.
Right.
I was like, if this is what it's like to feel famous, this is insane, because it was crazy.
It was a little odd to me that they walked you all out there after you had just said we don't want to talk to the cameras. You would have thought they'd go out a side door or something.
Well, it's not that we didn't say, we were able to say if we didn't want to, or if we wanted to, or if we wanted to just walk out. And we were like, we can just walk out.
Oh, I see. It's not, okay. It's not like you all said no. It's like, let us walk out.
If we did say no, they were going to have two of the officers stand by us and walk us to where we need to be.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Because some of the other jurors I tried to grab and they didn't want to say anything. So what questions do you still have about this that you wish were answered?
That's a good question.
Like, do you think the story of what was told in the house really happened? Because really, Lori's the only one alive now that knows. And her track record is not the best.
No. Going back through it, or well, not going back through it, but watching everything now, you do get to see Tylee's interview, and she does say that she had the bat, which is what Lori was saying the whole time. Do we know if she told her to say that? We don't know. Stop. Sorry, your dog's barking.
You can.
Do we know if she was told to say that? I don't know, but what is going on there? There we go. Okay.
No worries.
If you think about it, the state had a pretty good point where if he was actually holding the bat, swinging it at him, Lori said he was holding it like this, the bullet would have hit his arm. It didn't. And actually it was on the complete opposite side of him that it would have happened if he actually was holding it. So that was, yeah.
So do you think that you obviously, it sounds like you think it was all planned out?
Yeah, it was staged.
And that he went into the house, Alex shot him. And was the fact that that they waited 47 minutes to call for help, was that a big red flag?
It was, because why would you do that? Who would do that? I mean, if someone is shot and clearly not alive, you'd think you'd want to call the cops instantly. But in that time, she went to Walgreens, she went to Burger King, her and Alex spoke twice within that time. and then finally they called. So why would you wait that long, you know, if it's something that had just happened?
Have you learned
And
about?
like,
Oh, go ahead.
and like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you. Have you learned about the condition of JJ and Tylee, how they were found?
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, Meg.
That's extremely sad.
Yeah.
Extremely sad.
There was a lot of concern that if you all came back with a not guilty verdict and then saw what had happened in Idaho, that you might have some regrets. But I mean, that's not an issue that needs to be worried about now.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I'm assuming that she has one more trial coming up.
She does, either June or July. And, we can go there if we want. Some people asked if they can be on the jury again, and that's not a thing. But
wow.
They told us that if we want to go back when the verdict happens, we're allowed to go in there and sit in there and watch.
Do you want to?
Yes.
Wow.
And do you plan to go to the trial a few days just as a spectator?
I do, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that'll be interesting to hear your insight from the other side.
Yeah.
It will be.
What did you think watching Lori just overall the whole trial? I mean, did anything impress you about her? Like, did anything stand out and help her?
I thought she was pretty good at cross-examining, actually. But the part that stood out to me and to everyone was how she was reacting to everything. When the state was talking, when she was talking to people, it was sassy. It was, I don't care. It was laughing, smirking. Anytime the state would say something that was a big deal, she would look at us and just kind of smirk and roll her eyes like
She does that.
it was no big deal.
So she'd look at you all and kind of interact non-verbally.
Oh yeah, the whole time she was making eyes with us, but only every time that she heard something that was a big deal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are you into true crime?
I'm actually going to school for criminal justice generalist. So
Wow.
yeah.
Cool.
So do you
Yeah.
listen to the podcasts and watch the shows, or do you kind of keep that separate from your studies?
I watch the shows. I don't listen to podcasts. But I do watch, I love watching Body Cam. That's a super cool show. Yeah. And my sister got me hooked on Dr. Insanity because my sister's she actually just graduated yesterday from GCU for criminal justice. So
what did she think about you being on the jury?
She says she can't believe her sister's famous. She thinks it's just as crazy as I do. So
isn't it interesting that just the fact that you respond to the summons and you happen to randomly get picked, and now everyone wants to interview you, much like the woman that went on a date with Charles Vallow the night before he was killed.
Yeah.
Suddenly she takes the stand and a phrase of what she says goes viral. I mean,
it went it blew up. It went viral. Yeah.
Yeah. The other moment that a lot of people have talked about, the green chili enchiladas. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What did you think of that moment when she was questioning her brother and brought that up?
So we were not told, but we're supposed to have just a straight face through it all. So nobody knows what we're thinking. So nobody knows if we're judging,
So they told you to keep a poker face.
Yeah, basically. And so when the don't flatter yourself, the green chili enchiladas, there was another part in there, but when all that happened, we could hear each other kind of like make a noise just because it was funny and can't believe this is happening right now, but it was funny because we looked like we had straight faces, but to all of us where we could hear each other, we were all kind of chuckling on the inside, we were chuckling, and only we could hear that, but it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. Do you think you'll be in touch with any of the jurors? I mean, did you all form a friendship or relationship?
Actually, I won't be, because like I said, I haven't been here very long. I don't know many people. I work and come home. So like I don't really trust people that I just met, especially just like on the jury. I mean, we did connect with a couple people, but it's not something that I'd be interested in. But we did all write our numbers, our emails, Facebook, Instagram, just in case anyone did want to get in touch. And I know that the guy with the beard actually he makes his own jewelry, and so the other girl on the jury, he made her something, and now they're staying in touch because he sells it. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, some people are gonna stay in touch, but yeah.
There were a lot of people worried that there was a predominantly male jury, more men, and that men.
And it was, but it didn't affect anything. Like we all got along super well.
Lori probably hoped
it wasn't male, female, this, that. It was actually like didn't come into play at all.
Yeah, that's good. Good to hear.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's different because some jurors really form a tight bond, but those jurors are generally sequestered. They're having lunch together every day. Then the trial's weeks and weeks and weeks. You guys could go do your own lunch, and it lasted, 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. So what did you learn from all of it, Tosh?
Oh gosh. A lot. I think I'm still coming down from all of everything, because right now we would be there, and we were there for a little over 2 weeks straight. So it feels weird to just kind of relax today.
Yeah. Do you feel like you understand the court system better or differently?
100%. What I'm going to school for, with that, I can actually be like a courtroom assistant and have that background to help me out. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do when I finish school, so I can sit in on cases and, help out. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Had you had that thought before this?
No, not the courtroom assistant thought. I was thinking of basically just going, because I'm going for criminal justice generalist. So that's everything in the criminal justice system, the whole thing, not just corrections, not just court, it's everything. So I'm learning about everything. So really with this, I can be a detective. I can do just corrections. I can do courtroom assistant, so, but being with the courtroom assistants daily, it was kind of cool to see what they get to do and that they get to sit on cases. So
that's very cool. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
If you could have a chance to ask and talk with Lori Vallow, 1, would you? And 2, what would you ask her?
Why? I mean, like, we know why. Well, we don't really know why, but like in her form, we know why, because the whole Nephi thing. But I don't think I'd want to meet with her. I just want to know, like, because I learned that she got released from the mental health thing because they didn't see anything. They didn't see any issues. But I want to know, like, how she reacted during that and why they didn't think there was anything there.
So you think she has some mental illnesses?
I do. Yeah, I don't really know how to put it, but I just don't think if you didn't, this wouldn't be a thing.
Right.
Because nobody does it for fun.
Well, she has been diagnosed with religious delusions, some sort of delusion, mental illness. But that being said, to be competent for trial, all you have to do is understand your charges and assist in your defense.
Yeah,
she assisted in her defense because she
she
did it.
did.
Do you think it would have been a much different trial if she actually let attorneys do the work?
Yeah, I do. I think she stretched it because that makes it so she can be out longer, you know? So if she did have attorneys, I think they would have got straight to the point. They would have known how to properly ask the questions. And so I don't think it would have taken as long.
Let me ask you real quick. You mentioned the Nephi thing, which was throughout it. Did you know anything about Nephi? Did it confuse you? Were there LDS members on the jury?
There was actually the other girl. She said she was raised a Mormon. She didn't say if she still was or anything like that, but she said she was raised one. So, but I've never heard anything like this. I watched, let's see. So Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Oh, there you go.
they talk about it quite often and their beliefs and stuff like that. So I heard about it like that, but me being from a small town, there's nothing like that there. I come from a town of like 4,000 people, and there's
you don't know any Mormons, any LDS people.
I don't know, and I knew there was like a bunch of different religions, but like I didn't know anything about any other ones other than Christian or not.
Right. So did the stuff about Nephi confuse you, sound odd? And I guess was that other member of the jury able to say this isn't mainstream LDS? Or
yeah,
you pretty much made sense of that this isn't obviously mainstream?
We pretty much made sense of it, especially when I think it was Adam that testified, right?
Right,
Yeah.
her brother, yeah.
He was like, this isn't a thing. That's not what we do.
Yeah. Tosh, you've been a great interview. I'm sorry, that was longer than 20 minutes. You were just so fast
That's okay.
to talk to. What do you want to add?
I don't really have anything to add other than I said it in the interviews previously, but I'm really glad that Charles's family
yeah, for sure,
is at peace.
Welcome,
now.
Franks. Glad
they can finally sleep at night knowing that there's justice for him.
And do you plan to follow other like criminal cases now? Like, CourtTV, become a watcher?
I probably will. I stay pretty busy. I don't like to just be at home. So I don't have a lot of downtime other than at night. But I probably will start watching CourtTV, and I'm still watching Dr. Insanity, and I finished Body Cam, so I can't watch that anymore. But yeah, I'll probably stay on top of it more.
Well, Dateline over the past 5 years, I've helped work with Dateline. They've done, I think, 12 hours on this case.
Wow.
So you should go back to the beginning if you have 12 hours of time, and you can watch the very first episode was when Chad and Lori had not been arrested and were in Hawaii. And then episode 2 is when they were arrested. Then episode 3 and 4, and then the kids are found. It kind of tells it all. And they have a good podcast called Mommy Doomsday.
Okay.
Which you can listen to, and that kind of tells the whole story. Unless you probably already have heard a lot of it, but there's a bunch of fascinating facts. And of course, that new trial coming up in June, there'll be more. And that'll be nice to see you there if you decide to come for a few days.
Yeah, I probably will, just to see what it's like to be on the other side and look at the jurors that are there.
Right.
I'll probably be there.
Frustrated at how I am.
Okay, so now, sorry, that went to another video from Gary. Okay, so now we're going to watch another one. We have now with CourtTV. This has, I think it's the same juror, but also Lori's cousin.
Coverage of the cult mom conspiracy trial of Lori Daybell. I'm Kelly Craft, coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona. A jury in Arizona found Lori Daybell guilty of conspiring with her now deceased brother, Alex Cox, to kill her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. A jury of 10 men and 2 women found her guilty. And we have a juror that is joining us now live. This juror has just walked up from being downstairs.
the other thing that's interesting, so with these different interviews, different people ask different questions. So it'll be interesting to see what else we learned here.
To join us, we don't always get an opportunity to talk to jurors after a verdict in a case. So this is one of those rare opportunities. Hello, we are meeting for the first time. My name is Kelly Craft with CourtTV. What's your name?
Tosh.
Tosh.
Yes.
I'll have you get a little closer to me, Tosh. Thank you so much for joining us. And moreover, thank you so much for serving on the jury. We appreciate your jury service. I'm a practicing attorney, and it's often hard to find people that want to serve on the jury. So I want to say thank you for serving on a jury. Okay, talk to me about the verdict and what went on inside, if you can.
Inside our jury room?
Yes.
A lot of back and forth. Most of us pretty much knew what we wanted to do, but there was a couple of us that still needed kind of more looking into. So we all did it as a whole to look more into it, just to put our minds at ease. And then we came up with it in not too long a time.
Take me back to the first moment when you walked in to begin those deliberations. So yesterday, did you deliberate and discuss at all? You were just in session for a very short amount of time.
We did not.
Okay.
We got sat back there, and then they told us that we'll be back tomorrow morning. So.
Okay. And then, so today, when you made your way back into the courtroom, what's the first thing? Did you take a vote? What took place?
A lot of eyes were on us. We got set back into that room, and then that's kind of where they told us now is the time that we can talk about it. We had all the evidence, so we could relook at it, we could watch everything, we could reread everything, and that's exactly what we did. So it took a little bit of time, but we did it.
When you talk about some people needed some conviction.
For anyone who missed it, in the previous interview, we learned that they actually deliberated for under an hour. So yeah.
Insane. What were some of the sticking points?
The text messages, the romantic messages that were between
Lori and Chet Daybell.
Correct. Just 3 days after. Yeah, so that was pretty crazy because that means that there was something before that. But and then when she was still talking to her brother, they said that she said that they were going to be like Nephi,
Yes.
and that Charles was Ned before they got rid of him. So the part where they said they got rid of him was kind of where we were all like, yeah, that makes sense.
For jurors, was it hard to understand and wrap your head around what was going on? While I was sitting inside the courtroom, I noticed there was one point during the trial that a lot of jurors were taking notes when the prosecutor was talking about Z's, zombies. When the jurors are starting to hear about all of these just different, maybe outside the box religious beliefs, what was going through your head?
It's a lot to take in. Coming from a small town, I've never heard of anything like that before. So that being, when they were talking about it, I think all of us were kind of like, we've never heard of that. So we started taking notes on what she was calling them so we could look back at the times, when, why, how, all that stuff.
Yeah. When Lori gave her opening statement, so back a few weeks ago now, she was emotional during that time. You're hearing about a family tragedy. That's what she referred to this as. What did you think of that message? In the beginning, let's talk about maybe in the beginning first.
When we heard it in the very beginning, I think a couple of us felt for her when she said that, because, I mean, it's not easy losing someone you've been with for so long, whether you don't like them or not. But then as time went on, it kind of got a little more real, and I'm not sure what I can say.
No, that's okay. And then at the end, I noticed during the closing argument, some of the jurors, I didn't notice you, but some of the jurors had their hands crossed during her closing argument, at least for some of it. And I felt, just from being a spectator in the gallery, that the opinion kind of has changed a bit. And maybe Lori's comments are not as believable maybe as they had been at the opening.
Yeah, that's right. Because we got shown a lot more stuff from the since the beginning. Yeah. And so it all kind of came to a realization that it's actually a real thing that she did. And our emotions changed because at first like I said, we were kind of feeling for her when she said it was a tragedy. But now that we've seen everything, we've touched everything, we've read everything, it's a lot. So we've been through a lot on this jury.
You definitely have. What about the prosecutor's point about Charles Vallow lying on the ground and that second shot? She spent a lot of time focusing on that second shot. Did that play a factor in your decision?
It did, because what she was what she was basically saying was that it was self-defense. One shot, yeah, probably maybe self-defense. But the second shot, realizing that he got shot the second time when he was already on the ground, that's not self-defense. No matter what anyone says, it's just not. They can't do anything when they're on the ground. So that's when we were like, yeah, they're right about that. So
another thing the prosecutor talked about is the money. How did that play? Now, Lori said in her opening that it is not a crime to have life insurance policies on somebody, that her husband had a $2 million life insurance policy on her. How did that play?
It kind of stayed in all of our minds from the beginning, because it is a lot of money, even though hers is more. $1 million is still a lot of money. And I don't know if you guys saw the texts or heard them, but she was pretty upset when she realized she was not the beneficiary. And then when they talked about it in person, she just kind of rolled her eyes and scuffled at us. So yeah, she kind of played it as like we should be on her side, but we weren't, because I mean, seeing the text messages that she was upset, even though she said she wasn't, and that, yeah, it's a lot.
What about the text message that we got rid of him before we got rid of him?
Yes. That's when it kind of clicked to all of us. Really? Everything leading up to that was just more back of what we were already thinking when they did end up saying that.
I know your ride is here. I appreciate you talking.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that his family is at peace. We got to see his sister's face and family's face when they said guilty, and they all just looked so relieved. It was a good feeling.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Tosh. Appreciate you talking to us. Have a good night. So we heard from a jury here. Again, that's a rare opportunity to hear what a juror has to say in a case like this. And she is exactly right. Justice for the victims' families. And that's why Arizona said they wanted to bring Lori Daybell here. They brought her here from Idaho, where she is serving a life sentence for the killing of her two children, Tylee Ryan, as well as JJ, and then also Tammy Daybell, Chad Daybell's wife. Oh, goodness. Okay, I think somebody just had an accident. So I will
it over. She's gonna
Karen Reed stands trial. Take a net, all of that.
She's going to be talking on cousin.
in the cult mom who said a lot about them.
For Charles, and I'm grateful.
You have been.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
So this is Megan Connor, Lori's cousin.
I know you have been in the courtroom throughout this case. What is your reaction to the verdict, Megan?
Well, I'm definitely grateful. More than anything else, I'm grateful to the jury, and I'm very happy that justice is finally served for Charles. And I'm thinking of Colby and the Vallow family today, and just really grateful that justice is served.
In listening to Lori, when she gave her opening statement as well as her closing, and also was doing the cross-examination of all the witnesses, what were you thinking as you were sitting inside? I know that we have talked before outside the courtroom, and it comes across to people who really don't know Lori as maybe just her head is in the clouds, and she may not even, be realizing exactly what's taking place. And then it seems to be there's this belief, according to some, that she really is extremely manipulative. That's just the way that she comes across. What do you think? Well, what did you think as you were watching?
Well, it's infuriating to see Lori in the courtroom looking as though she has not a care in the world, flipping her hair, smiling at people, happy with her street clothes, knowing what she's done, what she's been convicted of. And there seems to be absolutely zero recognition from her of any sort of remorse whatsoever or any recognition about what she's done to her victims. And that's infuriating to me. So I'm sure that, she's annoying. She comes off as arrogant and smug. And I know to a lot of people, her voice is triggering, especially, Kay just talked in the press conference about her baby voice. And of course, that's, annoying to everyone. To me, it feels a little bit like vindication, because when I first started speaking up as a family member, this is what I said at the beginning during her first trial, that she has one persona in public and she is quite another thing in private. And I think we've seen that play out in the courtroom. And the public has learned at this point how manipulative Lori is and how she doesn't really care about anything but what she wants. And that's her only goal.
Megan, you mentioned something that Kay Woodcock had said during the interview about the baby voice that is very noticeable when you're sitting inside the courtroom listening to her speak. Is that a different voice when she's before this? What was her voice like before all of this?
Well, the baby voice is just something that is part of Lori's manipulation tactic. She doesn't want to be perceived as harsh. She wants to be perceived as nice and sweet and kind. And she uses that baby voice. You'll notice that she uses it at the end of her cross-examination, or when the judge asks her a question, she'll say, "No more questions, thank you." So she uses that as a 100%. Softener to whatever it is that she has said just previously that is manipulative and unkind.
Megan, it took the jurors just under 3 hours to make a decision. What was going through your mind as they were deliberating? Was there ever a doubt that they would come back with the verdict that they did, finding her guilty?
Well, I have to admit, I was hoping that they would come back pretty quickly this morning. And so when it stretched into a lunch break, I started to get a little bit worried, because I know that the evidence is very circumstantial. And, it's hard to know just by looking at their faces what they're thinking. I could tell that they were all very invested in learning the facts of the case, but it's really hard to tell how they're being affected. And so I was concerned when it stretched into a lunch hour. And as we got to the end of the day and it looked like they were going to go home for the day, I started to get really, really worried. So I was elated to hear that the verdict came back. And once I heard that, I was a lot less concerned, although it's always going to be a little bit nerve-wracking. I was definitely holding my breath up until the moment that I heard the word guilty.
Megan, throughout this trial, I believe there were some new things that some family members did become aware of. One of those things was that Charles Vallow had been dating. Was that something that came as a surprise to you?
I knew through talking with other family members that he was moving on, and I knew that he had, filed divorce papers earlier in 2019. And so, I knew that obviously their marriage was having difficulties. So it wasn't really a shock to me that he was, that he was making dates with other women. And I think as we heard Nancy Jo Hancock testify, it was just dinner. They were meeting. They'd been talking. It's not like they'd had this long-standing relationship that Lori wanted to allege that Charles was having an affair, when it was actually her who was doing that.
Yes, that was tough for many people to reconcile that in her comments inside the courtroom. Megan, thank you so much for your insight and your thoughts on this case.
Okay.
Walking out now, knowing, I think you're knowing how high profile this case
is the immediate right afterwards, guys.
was. What's going through your head?
Sadness. It's sad. Whoops, I'm sorry. It's just sad that, this has happened to Charles, and she's given up her life as well. It's sad.
What did you think of her defending herself? Anything that went through the jury's head with that?
Well, for me personally, I thought, what does she have to lose? guilty or not guilty. What does she have to lose? So,
were any of you folks aware that this woman had already been
I had never been
convicted
heard.
of
I have never
3
heard of her.
homicides?
Yeah, no,
And
I've
the
never
jurors
heard of
did
her
not know
before.
that.
No, I did not.
And nobody brought it.
And ma'am, would you want to come in and talk too? Do you want to say anything?
Just
Yeah, what
because
was your
there's a lot of backstory here, and this woman had already been convicted of 3 homicides, and they obviously didn't want you folks to know that. Nobody knew that during your deliberations.
No.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Well,
What was this experience like for you?
It was sad, like as he said. For me, it was the text messages that did it as far as evidence. And I feel like we uncovered some lies.
Knowing now that she was convicted of killing her 2 children in Idaho.
I haven't had a chance to Google everything. I'm sure as soon as we get on the shuttle. So might have more to say later.
Was that difficult going through this and
Yes,
not being able
it
to be
was.
disconnected?
Yeah.
What
It
do you
just felt
think
like there was a lot of information that didn't make sense and that was missing.
do you think she did herself any favors by
No.
defending herself?
No,
You were not impressed with her lawyering skills?
no.
What did you think of her behavior during cross-examination? The way that at one moments she was argumentative with some of the witnesses.
I mean, many days she just was like smiling and laughing and didn't seem to take anything very seriously.
Were you hoping to hear how much of that did that play into a factor in the decision?
It did.
Were you hoping to hear her testify? Were you hoping
Yes,
to hear
I
her
was.
testify?
I was.
And what about you?
I didn't understand why she didn't call anyone.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Or why she didn't have like, I know she made a statement about
The thing is that she really acted like she was going to. You know what I mean?
the only family that was interviewed was her estranged brother, and why wasn't her parents or her sister, but yet she didn't call them.
Yeah.
So
I mean, in saying that, she is not obligated to prove her innocence.
exactly, yeah.
Except to-
And you gave her that benefit of the doubt. She would recognize she didn't have to put on the defense.
She knew. that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. She knew.
Was the fact that she didn't put up a defense or take the stand in her own defense part of your deliberation at all?
Did it
It was
affect
all evidence. It was all evidence that was
Yeah.
produced and presented to us.
Sorry if this was asked. What would you say the biggest piece of evidence for you guys as a jury was when you came to the decision?
Well, for me, like her, it was text.
The text
were damning.
history.
What specifically
tell us
about the
which
text?
Oh, there were so
I don't know
many.
if I can do that. Yeah, there was.
I mean,
there
we
was
had
2 of them for me
pages.
that really stood out.
Can you
Which
tell
ones?
us Which ones?
The
Um,
Nephi.
Yeah, that was one of them. Soon you'll be Nephi, and so will I. So that was one of them. But I don't know if I should say anything more.
We heard so much about dark spirits and religion and how this all plays into it. I mean, as a jury, what's going through your head when you start hearing that in court?
For me, that didn't really play a big role because you have to have evidence of conspiracy, and that is not evidence of conspiracy to me.
Was it
somebody?
Was it unusual for you guys to? I mean, you're talking about her brother Alex, the guy who actually did that was the triggerman. So many players were referenced in this trial, and you never saw them, and never heard
Correct.
from them. That had to be confusing when
It
you
was
guys got
very
back in the jury room. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very confusing.
What did how
It
did
just felt like there was so much of the story that was missing.
Did she have any valid arguments, like anything that made you think maybe she's not guilty?
Do you want to answer? I can't think of any.
You know, honestly, up until yesterday, I would have said not guilty. But when the prosecutor, I don't know, what do they call that? When they give their
Closing argument?
Yes, the closing
Connected
argument.
the
That's
dots.
really there's a few things she said in there. And when I looked them up today, I was like, oh yeah, that's bad.
And you were still on the fence yesterday.
I was yesterday.
Give us a sense of what it was like to be in that jury room. Was there any a point that someone was disagreeing, saying that maybe she is not guilty? Or were you guys
There was
all-
a couple.
And what was that like? Walk us through that.
It's just a matter of, adults working things out, going through all the evidence and figuring out, what we thought what we were going to come to an agreement with.
To learn now that everyone that was in that house that day, minus Daybell, is all not with us anymore, is dead or has been killed. I mean, what is that like to hear as jurors walking out?
Sad. Like, I kept wanting to hear from Tylee.
I was going to ask, is anybody wondering why Tylee wasn't testifying?
Yes.
You were.
Did you ever ask the judge why aren't they here?
No. And the one witness that really got to me was hearing Kay. I was holding back my emotions.
One of the biggest factors in your decision today?
One of the biggest factors was probably when we were sitting there, whenever they would ask a question about the Mormon stuff and all that, she would just kind of look at us and smile and smirk. So it kind of gave it away for a lot of it. Just kind of didn't really care.
What were those conversations like in the jury room? I mean, going back and forth when everyone was deliberating. Can you kind of put us inside that room with you?
Let's see. It was kind of, so a lot of us already knew. A couple of us just needed the extra, we need to re-look back through the evidence, the text messages and all that. So it was a little bit of back
I
and
love
forth.
that
But
the shoes played a big role too.
all of us were pretty sure we already knew what we wanted.
Was there one piece of evidence that really convinced you she was guilty?
Probably when she said that he was Ned before they got rid of him. That was probably the part where we were like, okay, now it's real.
Did you ever wonder why Tylee wasn't testifying as a witness?
Yes. We didn't really have much to say about it though, because we didn't really know anything, why she didn't, stuff like that.
And do you understand now that every other witness that was there that day is now dead?
Yes.
Crazy.
When did you learn that?
At the end when we first were walking out.
Yes.
Everyone was talking about it, and we got told to look up her previous stuff so that we were aware.
And in that jury room, this woman's been convicted of 3 homicides. You
Crazy.
guys didn't know that.
We did not.
None of you guys knew that.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
And then hearing all the missing pieces in the trial, the people who didn't testify, there were a lot of holes when you went into the jury room. That were not explained to you. Must have made it more difficult.
It did, which is why we went back through everything just to make sure we didn't miss anything, to make sure that we were 100% on what we were choosing to do.
Was there anything that made you think she might not be guilty?
No.
Great.
When you went back to the deliberation
Great
room, were there
answer.
any jurors that were uncertain and some that were certain? Where did you start? What was the foundation for deliberations?
I think probably 10 out of 12 of us were certain. The other 2, we helped them go back to what they needed to learn to kind of make up their mind. And then, we just kind of went from there.
Did you guys look at any additional evidence once you were back there? Because I know that not all of the evidence was presented in court, and they said there was additional. Lori asked you to watch the entire interview, for example, and
Yes.
Trina Kay invited you to do the same. Did you guys do any of that?
We did. That was actually one of the first things we did, because what we saw was only clip-its. And going back through it, it was actually kind of the whole interview that was like that. She asked us to watch the whole thing, but the whole thing was pretty much those clip-its, other than her laughing, smiling about, she was kind of just at peace. Like, she was just sitting there, her legs were crossed. She was sitting all the way up on the seat with no shoes on, just her legs were crossed like she was in her own home.
Lori made a big deal out of being called nonchalant or calm throughout the entire trial. Didn't think it was really fair. Was that something that affected you guys, her calmness or nonchalantness?
Yes. Being that calm when everything happened, it's not something that you would normally be calm about. You'd expect to be sad, asking how your brother's doing, since he was the one that got injured during it too. She didn't do any of that. She already knew it happened, and she just went with it like that.
Did you want her to testify?
I guess I don't know. Yes, seeing Charles's sister's reaction when they did say she pled guilty was really relieving. It made all of us feel really good that they got justice.
Can we get your first and last name?
Natasha Smith.
Natasha Smith.
Also known as Tosh Reed Tucker, though.
Tosh Reed Tucker.
Yes.
Can you spell that?
TASS. And then my last name is Reed Tucker, REED-Tucker.
Do you plan to go watch a bunch of stuff about this case now, or are you
Yes. I believe we're told that there's a Netflix documentary, and you can basically just Google it. Everything will pop up. So that's probably what I'm going to do when I get home.
You're gonna die.
Yeah.
And you really didn't know anything about this case coming on as a juror?
No, and I told my grandma that I got requested for jury, and she asked if I know anything about it. I told her the name, and her jaw dropped. Like I was supposed to know who she was. Like she thought it was insane that I didn't know what was happening, but I just moved here 2 years ago as of March, so I didn't really know anything to begin with, but my grandma did, and she thought I was just crazy for not knowing.
Where'd you live previously?
Minnesota.
And so your grandmother was able to keep a tight lip on things?
She did, yes, she did.
Fun discussion with her tonight.
Yeah, and I actually see her tonight too, because my mom just flew in from Minnesota, so I'm gonna go see them after this, and we're probably gonna watch everything.
I have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Tosh, what kind of murder conspiracy case did you think
All right, so now we're on to Justin Lum.
you were walking into after you heard opening statements? What were your initial thoughts?
Let's see. My initial thought was, this is intense. I've never heard anything like it. So when we got to get a little snippet of what we were going there for, it just was intense.
Yeah, opening statements, you listened to the prosecutor, Trina Kay, and she probably spoke for about an hour or even a little bit more. And she's basically giving you a roadmap of what you're going to see.
Yeah.
I know, right?
And
Yeah.
you're just trying to
It's
listen.
funny because she really described herself, as like a homebody and stuff. So it's actually surprising of all the jurors. Now, I expect there will probably be more, but I appreciate it, right? I mean, it's clear that she really, while she's not really looking for attention or what have you, but she really appreciated getting a chance to do her civic duty, and it's kind of influenced her career path, and pretty cool. Always grateful to hear from the jurors, and it'll be interesting to see what questions he asks that she hasn't been asked yet.
To names and take notes. Were you taking notes? Just take me through that.
I took a ton of notes, pages and pages of notes. And throughout the whole process, I'd like to think that I did a pretty good job at taking notes so that I remembered everything. I wrote down the times, the days, the names, everything, so that I didn't miss anything.
And what stood out to you on day one?
That she got emotional talking about everything in her opening statement.
Lori did, yeah. Specifically about her daughter.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in a little bit. But as we stand here right now, what do you think of the case now in this moment?
It's a lot. It's way bigger than I thought it would ever be when I first heard about it.
What is it about the case that makes it so much for you?
That someone could do something like that to someone they loved.
19 witnesses took the stand, and we were expecting maybe 5 to 6 weeks, a long trial. But this went pretty quick and fast. Who among those witnesses made the most impact, in your opinion?
Another great question.
I think Kay and Adam, because out of Adam's take on it, he basically said that he kind of explained to us that the Nephi thing and
he basically told us that what she did that had to do with the Nephi thing wasn't a legit thing, you know.
Like should not have been justified the way she justified it.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming into this, are you a religious person? Do you know a lot about the Mormon Church, LDS members?
I don't know anything about it. I'm from a small town where you're either Christian or you're not.
Oh.
And so I've never heard anything about this other than when I moved here and I watched Salt Lake City Housewives and they're like LDS, and that's the first time I ever heard of it.
So really not too familiar at all.
No.
So really family members stood out to you. Adam Cox, her brother, Kay Woodcock, Charles's sister, because you could relate and just see the family dynamic and how Adam clearly knew she had a problem.
Yeah. And I want to say one of the detectives as well, kind of just telling us about the shots and the text messages that were sent, that those messages that he got, and how he found where the phone was when it arrived and when it left. So we got to know how many minutes it actually was from other than what Lori was telling us. That stuck out too.
The timeline tracing her location with basically two phones, including Charles's phone, that had to be concerning. You knew that Lori is not a lawyer.
Right.
How do you think she did representing herself?
I think she did. So in the beginning, it was a little bit iffy because she kept messing up her wording and stuff like that. But throughout it, she actually did really good, I think. In my opinion, she did pretty good.
For not ever having the experience.
Yeah. She held her ground, I'd like to say.
Was it her cross-examination? Because we know she
Pro se defense I've seen.
didn't present any evidence. She didn't have any witnesses. When she questioned witnesses on the stand, how do you think she came off? And I know there were some moments that were very tense.
Yeah. She came off, tense is a good word. A little bit sassy is how I'd like to put it, because she would, kind of snap back when she wasn't supposed to. But yeah.
And the judge would basically shut things down and make sure everything was. Would you say he was a patient?
Very, very patient.
So you said during your initial interviews with the media that after the verdict that two of the jurors were not fully convinced that she was guilty. Why were they still so unsure? Take me through that process.
I'm not really sure why they weren't completely knew what they wanted, but one of them wanted to rewatch the Walgreens clip where, I don't know if you've watched the video, but she actually did come in with shoes on, and she said she didn't. But she did. And then she switched them from going from Walgreens to back to the house. And then the other guy that was on the fence was the text messages. So we reread through all those, and then he got clarification, and then we went from there.
So it was a simple lie about having shoes or no shoes.
Yeah.
That you guys
because
didn't trust her.
Yeah, because if you lie about something as simple as sandals on your feet, why should we believe you for anything else, And
in that timeline, her husband has been shot and killed.
Yeah.
She's gone to Burger King as well, and she had never called 911.
Yeah.
You knew that. Yeah. So already you were suspicious.
Yeah, because why are you doing all that rather than just calling 911 if it meant that much,
Yeah. The text messages, obviously, it's very complex and strange. And you had this guy on the fence in your jury. How did you guys explain or get on the same page of what these texts meant regarding dark spirits, Ned, being possessed? There's a lot of text messages to go over, but what were the ones that stuck out and that needed to be, focused on?
The ones where that part where they said he was Ned before we got rid of him, specifically the part where it says before we got rid of him. And then later after that, it was that they were going to be like Nephi, both of them.
Yeah. Days leading up to the shooting.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So she thinks that she's this powerful person in her mind.
Yeah.
And you're gathering that when she says it was Ned before we got rid of him, that, you know, poor Charles, but he was just possessed by, you know, that's why this life insurance beneficiary changed.
Yeah.
And you heard the call to life insurance, 2 parts. What did you think about that?
It was different. You know, she was very calm. You can tell that she was trying to figure out what to say.
One thing too, I thought was funny about that is that in the life insurance call, when they ask her, when she's asked like, how did he die? Lori's first response is like, I don't really want to say. Did you guys notice that? I thought that was interesting. She's like in other words, she knew that it showed that she already knew it was going to sound suspicious, right? Like if it was actually an accident, if you had something where it was like actually an accident and somebody was shot and there was, you know, you wouldn't. It was just funny. She kind of gave it away, right? That she knew it was going to sound fishy. Anyway.
Okay. So that was another point of where we were kind of like, why is she lying?
They asked if it was a homicide, or the person asked from the insurance company, she said it was an accident. Was there ever a moment that you thought maybe Charles, Vallow, and Alex Cox did get into an actual fight?
I think they probably did get into an argument, but I don't think that the second shot was self-defense, if either of them.
Based on the evidence, do you think Charles actually hit him in the back of the head with that bat that you saw?
No. We got to look at the bat, and there was nothing. There was nothing on it. No prints, no hair, no anything.
Yeah, what was that like? You mean like in deliberation, you're looking at this in front of you?
Yeah, we got all of it in front of us. And so we got to touch the bat, we got to touch the gun, the casings, the floor piece, the trim, everything.
Yeah, the floorboard and how it was defected. There was a lot of technical testimony. I'm sure some witnesses, you're taking notes and you're just like, when is this going to be over? Going into ballistics, bullet entries, CPR, and how that was not done, etc. So how did you piece it all together to understand that Charles was really set up?
So it does not take a scientist to know that if someone was swinging the bat, like she said, like he was holding it up here, if the bullet would have hit his arm. It would not have hit straight in his chest. So he wasn't swinging it at the time. On top of that, the bat was on the complete opposite side of where it would have went if he was holding it when he got shot.
With Lori's cross-exam on experts, detectives, she alluded to maybe the shirt, the bamboo fabric causing the shored wound.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What were your thoughts in that moment as she's reaching?
Honestly, it was, and I think I can say this for all of us, it was hard not to take her seriously. You know, like, it doesn't matter what kind of material a shirt you're wearing, whether it's
Fabletics?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah. Like
something tight.
Yeah. Or just cotton. A bullet's not going to be stopped due to what shirt you're wearing. So when she kept repeating it, we were all just, and she mentioned the price of it, like it was supposed to make a difference in if it was going to stop a bullet or not.
So in your mind, you're just trying to stay serious. But
Yeah.
You're like, are you kidding me right now?
That's exactly how it was, yeah.
Let's talk about her demeanor, Lori's demeanor. What were you looking to see on her face and in her behavior following the shooting?
Really anything but how she was. You know, it was complete opposite of how it should have been. She wasn't worried about her brother being hurt. She wasn't asking how her husband was. She was giggling and laughing with the officer, and
That's a really
in her
great
interview,
point
she was
about
doing
not
the
worried
same
about
thing.
Adam or Alex being
Her
hurt.
body language, and there was no breakdown.
Yeah, she was very laid back, didn't really seem to faze her.
So when you're seeing that, what was your reaction in that moment, seeing her laughing, smiling, even vilifying Charles in those interviews?
My reaction was, she's not there. To put it in a nice way. It's hard to, I don't understand how she reacted like that in the situation that she was in.
Did you believe she was guilty at that point when you saw the video, or were you still on the fence?
No, I fully believe she was guilty.
She did tell you guys that she wanted you to watch the full 55-minute interview with Chandler police. Did you do that?
Yeah, when it came to deliberation, that's it. That's the first thing we did, was watch that video, because we wanted to see what she wanted us to see. And watching it, we're not sure why she wanted us to see it, because it made her look worse. The parts that the state showed, the clips that the state showed us, were the important parts of the interview. And the parts that they didn't, she took her sandals off and crossed her legs and was sitting in the chair like she was in her own home. She was unfazed, still smiling, still joking.
And there's even a moment where Detective Inclan walks out, so you get to see her by herself. And
Yeah.
if she's going to break down in tears, or if she's going to say anything, I mean, but you didn't get any reaction or remorse from her.
It was just, she just hung out.
So, and then after that video, you guys went to lunch, I assume. You guys had the 12 p.m. lunch that day. Yeah. At what point in this trial did you ask, where's Tylee, where's JJ?
We were all thinking that. We found out that we were all thinking that. We just couldn't talk about it because it wasn't deliberation yet. So we couldn't say anything what we were thinking or wanting to ask.
Did you expect to hear from Tylee as a potential witness?
Yeah, fully. And then while we were in deliberation, someone asked, why didn't she bring out anyone? Her kids, her friends. She didn't bring out anyone. So at that point, we were just questioning what happened and why.
Were you thinking, could they be dead, or?
No, I wasn't thinking that at all. I'm not sure what the others were thinking, but that's not something that crossed my mind.
Wow. So you come to this verdict in less than 3 hours. Did it feel fast to you? And did you come into deliberations already 100% that she was guilty?
Yeah, I knew already, and 10 out of the 12 of us already knew what we wanted to put, and that was that she was guilty.
So really it was looking over text messages and other evidence to get everyone on the same page.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty quick after that. After that lunch break, what did y'all, was it more of the, let's look this over?
That's when, after lunch is when we kind of show of hands, if you know what it is, or if you're on the fence, And then once we re-went through the evidence and they got what they needed, we were like, sign that paper and hand it to them, because we don't need to waste anyone else's time, because we could have stretched it out and waited till the next day. They gave us that option, but we were like, let's not waste anyone's time. We already know what we want, so we might as well just do it.
After closing arguments, though, and you received the case as a jury, you decided to go home for the day. How did that decision get made? Because that was like Monday afternoon around 3:15, and really you guys didn't officially get into deliberations, right? It was
They sat us down, and then they were like, it's already almost 4:30, so if you guys want to just go home, you can. Otherwise, you can start the deliberation right now. And at that point, everyone just decided to go home and pick up Tuesday.
Was it pretty exhausting, all of this information?
It was. It was. I've never heard, seen, been a part of anything like this. And not being able to talk to anyone or ask questions and just keep to yourself for a little over 2 weeks is hard.
And you just want to go have some normalcy, see your family, talk to your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. We talked about her demeanor in the crime scene as for when that was happening, but watching her at her table, what body language, cues, or expressions did you notice on her when the murder was discussed as she's in the courtroom? Because we couldn't really see her face.
Yeah, so she was the whole time anyone said anything important, like the state or a witness, anytime someone would say something important or, that caught her attention, she would look at us and just kind of smirk or roll her eyes like it wasn't a big deal. But she kept pretty good eye contact with us throughout the whole thing.
She's looking at all of you, whether she's up there or not, I assume when she's listening.
Yeah, when she was sitting at the defendant table.
Is it a smile? Is it she's gauging you guys, what you were thinking?
Yeah, she looked at us and smirked and would either smirk or shake her head or roll her eyes, just anything.
How'd that come off to you when she's doing that?
That she doesn't care.
Yeah. I don't think she can hide those emotions the way she is.
No. She's very, her face has a lot of expressions that she doesn't hide them, and it showed throughout the journey of this.
12 men on the jury before alternates were chosen. Now that you know more about her, do you think she thought that would work in her favor, having more men on the jury?
No, I don't.
No. What was it about the text messages you've talked about, but what really popped to you that told you this is a clear conspiracy to kill Charles? Like, that was point blank, answered it for you.
That she was going to be like Nephi and so was her brother. And that when she said that, they got rid of him.
When she brought up in closing arguments that this was just a positive religious message about Nephi and made to look like a directive to kill, did you buy that? Do you think that was, really, how else could she counter that?
Exactly. That's kind of how we took it too. She kind of tried to play it off like it was a positive thing, and that was not the case, and we all knew that.
So her own words basically convicted her.
Yeah.
What could the prosecution have done more to make the case stronger, in your opinion?
I think, well, now that I've seen the documentary and YouTube videos, I think that they should have taken it a little more serious when they showed a clip where Charles said that he knows that she wants to murder him. They did not show us that.
Yeah.
And I think that would have played a big role in it.
Yeah, he was talking to Gilbert police several months before.
Yeah.
How did you feel for him?
A ton, because I have 3 godsons who, if they were going through something like that, if we couldn't reach them, I wouldn't know what to do, it's not, I'm not comparing it to it, but I try to think of it like that because I would have felt like my whole world was ending if I couldn't reach my kids just randomly. And if they were just gone, because he couldn't reach them and he couldn't reach her,
No. Yeah, it's really sad. Also, the fact that Kay and Larry could not reach JJ.
Yeah.
Colby didn't know where Tyler
Yeah,
was.
anyone.
Yeah. What do you think Lori could have done differently to help her defense?
Had witnesses.
Good question.
Yeah, anyone that could be on her side, I think would have helped her. It would have looked better for her, but we pretty much knew from about the very beginning that it was just not good.
when you found out that she wasn't presenting evidence or no witnesses were taking the stand on her behalf, that had it solidified for you that she was guilty then?
Yeah, it did, because really it's saying that nobody's on her side. There's no one to support her.
If she would have testified and talked about, Charles being allegedly enraged and chasing her around with the bat, she had his phone, do you think that would have done anything for you as a juror?
No, because again, we were there for the conspiracy of it, not for what Alex did, Yeah. So we were looking at what she was saying, how she was acting.
Okay. So it wasn't, that was an easy answer then.
Yeah.
Because she knew what was going on.
Yeah.
When you guys got into deliberations, what did the foreperson say to start things off? How was the tone set?
There was a lot of talking. Everyone was talking over everyone. And then finally, he was like, okay, let's just come to a conclusion. And that's when he wanted us to raise our hands to see who wanted to vote what.
Did you feel like there was this big sigh of relief from everybody as you guys can actually talk about this?
Yeah, 100%. Because 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, not being able to talk to anyone is hard, especially when we're going through the case that we're going through, realizing that it's the biggest case in America right now, So having to keep that to ourselves, it takes a toll on us a little bit.
This is what I really want to ask too. How did you react to her questioning of Nancy Jo Hancock, the woman who dated Charles the night before his murder, and how she criticized Nancy's morals because Charles was married?
If I'm being honest, I think it was childish how she went about it.
No kidding.
It was more of her trying to make her feel bad for being with someone or wanting to be with someone that was allegedly still Lori's husband, and the way she was asking questions, it wasn't doing her any favors.
And meanwhile, at the time, she was in her own affair.
Yes.
Yeah, and you saw those messages and the story of James and Elena that Chad wrote and how they felt about each other. Was that shocking to you or messy?
It was, yeah, you could say messy. It was a long, long story. I don't know if you got to read it, but it was pretty intense and very romantic, I'd say. Yeah.
And now you've seen and learned more about Chad Daybell.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think?
He's like the guy version of her. They're the exact same person almost.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any jurors that questioned the job Chandler police did investigating the shooting initially?
Great question.
I don't think so.
Like, do you think they just didn't believe that this was a murder at first and it took some time to really see that there were big red flags, especially with everything coming out in Idaho? Now looking back, obviously, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. Now looking back, there's a couple red flags that you could see, but I don't know how they couldn't see that it wasn't a murder when he was shot twice.
Yeah, and the way he was shot the second time.
Uh-huh.
What are the lies you feel Lori told even during closing arguments?
The one that stuck out was the one about her sandals. She still preached about running out of the house with no shoes on.
Yeah.
And then, even knowing that we got to see the clips, you can clearly see she did have them on, and that she tried to trick the camera by taking the tags off at the checkout and putting the sandals on the floor, but then she picked them back up. I don't think she knew that the camera got that part of her also. I think she just thought it was like from the waist up, but we could see that she put them on the floor to make it look like she was putting them on and then picked them back up.
Interesting. Do you think this case is mainly about money or religion?
That's a good question. I think it had to take part with money, because $1 million is a lot. And even though she's worth $2 million, $1 million is still a lot. So she said she wasn't upset when she found out that the beneficiary was changed. And that wasn't the case, because you could tell she was upset through the messages and what she said.
Even how she acted towards the life insurance specialist or the person.
Yeah, just lying to him in general to start off with was red flag.
Hi, James. Welcome.
Now that this is over, what have you watched and read since the verdict? And how are you feeling at everything you're learning?
I watched the documentary. I've watched YouTube videos. I've read parts of the past stuff. And I just think it's a lot to take in, knowing that I get to be a part, or was a part of, this whole thing. But the whole thing is intense. I couldn't imagine ever going through something like that.
And this was the case that really started it all off.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, you're part of getting justice for Charles, but if there was a hung jury, a mistrial or something like that happened, and then you all go home and find out everything else, I mean, wow. Have you thought about what that would have felt like?
I haven't really got time to even think.
That makes sense.
I'm still coming down from this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of notes. Lastly, how would you describe these last 2 weeks?
A lot. Knowing everything that we've got to know, and learning everything that we have, and seeing everything, it's a lot.
How do you think it would have went if she did take the stand, and then Trina would have cross-examined her?
Not good. I think she would have cracked. Trina is extremely good at what she does, and I think it would have gotten to her, and she would have cracked.
Do you feel like those closing arguments sealed the deal? Because I think Trina went almost 2 hours talking to you.
She did, yeah. I think it played a big role in it.
All right. Juror number 8, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Like jonesing to drink, so go.
Got it. Went back to that caring video. Okay, so of course we will keep an eye out for any other jurors that do speak out. You know, I would imagine we probably will see some. Just pull this back up. Yeah, I think we probably will see some other jurors speak out, because you know several of them already did initially, but yeah, that this is the aftermath is right. Yep. And of course, she still has her next trial coming up here in June, but we still have another Karen Reed ahead for later today on day 4. And also we are going to revisit the hearing from the first day, because there's a couple things I noticed when I was doing timestamps that I had missed when we watched it live the first time. And the other thing we're going to do is sort of thinking about the week as a whole. What if you were a juror, right? Like, what has the Commonwealth presented that supports their supports the charges? We're going to pull up and revisit the verdict slips and the jury instructions and exactly what it is that they have to prove. So we're going to be doing that as well. And also we are going to be doing another stream for Idaho v. Koberger, but we're going to actually be revisiting Nick Balance's testimony from Lori and Chad's trials in Idaho as to what he testified there, because again, we will be seeing him again here in August or so, thereabouts, depending on when they call him, the state calls him. So that will be, and that was as per request. So that was a great idea. Shout out to Heather and Tonka for suggesting that. So we will be doing that as well. But that'll be it for this one, guys. So love all of y'all. Thanks for being here. Hopefully, did you hear? If you're interested in what the multiple weapons are, James, check out the stream from earlier. I went through that whole document. I haven't done timestamps yet because we went straight into this, but that is in there, and it will be timestamped eventually. But the first document we covered was the striking the death penalty, but then the second document is the one that would contain the bit about the multiple weapons, as well as many other things. There's a lot of interesting information too. So, but yeah, love y'all. We'll see y'all later on. And for now, squirrel out.